Olivia Barrett looked at her phone and smiled. It was a text from Marcus Johnson. "Thinking of you. Dinner tonight?" the message read. Her heart beat faster as she typed back, "Yes. My place at 7. She put her phone down and returned to grading papers from her third-grade class. As a 27-year-old elementary school teacher, Olivia loved her job. But lately, her mind kept drifting to Marcus. They had been dating for almost 8 months now. 8 wonderful months of deep conversations, laughter, and growing love. But 8 months of secrets, too. No one in Olivia's family knew about Marcus. Not her parents, not even her younger brother Charlie, whom she was closest to. Olivia finished grading the last spelling test and packed up her things. The school hallways were quiet as most teachers had already left for the day. She walked to her car, her thoughts still on Marcus. He was kind, intelligent, and passionate about his work as a public defender. At 30 years old, he had already built a reputation for fighting hard for his clients, especially those who couldn't afford good, legal help. She remembered the night they met at her college friend Kate's wedding. Marcus was the groom's cousin, and they had been seated at the same table. While others danced, they talked for hours about books, their work, and their dreams. By the end of the night, Olivia knew she wanted to see him again. As she drove home to her small apartment, Olivia felt the familiar knot in her stomach. She loved Marcus, but she was afraid to tell her family about him. Not because she was ashamed of him, never that, but because she knew how her parents might react. Richard and Susan Barrett had never openly said they disapproved of interracial relationships, but Olivia had heard enough comments over the years to know the truth. "People should stick with their own kind," her father had once said while watching a TV show with a mixed-race couple. Her mother had nodded in agreement. Olivia pulled into her parking spot and sat in the car for a moment. She had been raised in a mostly white suburb of Boston, in a family that claimed they weren't racist but made observations that suggested otherwise. Growing up, she had accepted their views without question. It wasn't until college that she began to see how narrow her upbringing had been. Inside her apartment, Olivia cleaned up quickly and started preparing dinner. Marcus loved her homemade pasta, and she wanted tonight to be special. As she chopped vegetables, her phone rang. It was Charlie. "Hey sis," her brother said, his voice sounding tired. "Charlie, how are you? Did you get that job you interviewed for?" Olivia asked, genuinely concerned. Charlie had graduated from college 6 months ago but was still struggling to find steady work. "No, they went with someone with more experience," he said. "But I've got another interview next week at a marketing firm." "That's great. I'm sure you'll get it," Olivia said, trying to sound encouraging. "Yeah, maybe," Charlie replied, not sounding convinced. "Anyway, Mom wanted me to remind you about Sunday dinner. Dad's grilling steaks." Olivia hesitated. Sunday family dinners were a tradition, but lately she had been making excuses to skip them. Being around her parents made her feel guilty about keeping Marcus a secret. "I'll be there," she said finally. "Tell Mom I'll bring dessert." After hanging up, Olivia returned to cooking, but her good mood had faded. She loved her family, especially Charlie, but the gap between her life with them and her life with Marcus was growing wider. At exactly 7 there was a knock at her door. Olivia smiled. Marcus was always on time. She opened the door to find him standing there with a small bunch of wildflowers. "These reminded me of you," he said, leaning in to kiss her softly. "Beautiful, but not showy." Olivia laughed and took the flowers. "Smooth talker," she teased, pulling him inside. Marcus was tall, with broad shoulders and kind eyes that crinkled when he smiled. He wore simple clothes, jeans and a button-up shirt, but carried himself with natural confidence. As a lawyer, he knew how to dress formally for court, but with Olivia, he was always relaxed and himself. Over dinner, they talked about their day. Marcus told her about a case he was working on, helping a young man who had been in the wrong place at the wrong time. The kid was just waiting for his friend outside the store when the police came. They assumed he was involved in the shoplifting, because he ran. But he ran because he was scared. He's had bad experiences with police before. Olivia loved how passionate Marcus was about justice. It was one of the things that had drawn her to him from the start. After dinner, as they sat on her small couch watching a movie, Marcus turned to her with a serious expression. "Liv," he said quietly, "we need to talk about something." Olivia felt nervous suddenly. "What is it?" Marcus took her hand. "I love you. You know that, right?" She nodded, feeling both happy and anxious. "But I'm tired of being your secret," he continued. "It's been 8 months. I want to meet your family, especially your brother. You talk about Charlie all the time, and I feel like I know him already." Olivia looked down at their joined hands, her pale skin against his darker tone. "I know," she whispered. "I want that too. It's just complicated." "Because I'm black?" Marcus asked directly. Olivia flinched at the bluntness but nodded. "My parents, they're not like me. They grew up in a different time. People can change, Olivia, but only if they're given the chance." "You don't know my father," she said. "He's stubborn. Once he makes up his mind about something, that's it." Marcus sighed. "So what's your plan? Keep me hidden forever? What happens if things get more serious between us? Will I be your secret husband? Will our children be a secret too?" Olivia's eyes widened. They had never talked about marriage or children before. The thought both thrilled and terrified her. "No, of course not," she said. "I just need more time. There's this family dinner on Sunday. Maybe I could mention you then, just as a friend first, to see how they react." Marcus looked skeptical but nodded. "It's a start," he said. "But Olivia, I need you to understand something. I love you, but I won't be treated like something shameful. I deserve better than that. We both do." "I know," she said, leaning against him. "I'm trying. I promise." Later that night, after Marcus had gone home, Olivia lay in bed, unable to sleep. She thought about her brother Charlie, and how he had always been more open-minded than their parents. Maybe she could tell him about Marcus first? Charlie could help her figure out how to tell their parents. Her phone buzzed with a text. It was Marcus. "Sweet dreams, Liv. Remember, love shouldn't have to hide in shadows." Olivia stared at the message for a long time. She knew he was right. But knowing what was right and finding the courage to do it were two different things. The next day at school, Olivia was distracted. During recess duty, her colleague and friend Pam noticed. "Earth to Olivia," Pam said, waving a hand in front of her face. "You've been staring at the swing set for 5 minutes. What's going on?" Olivia sighed. "It's complicated. Relationship stuff." "Trouble with the mystery man?" Pam asked. She was the only person at school who knew about Marcus, though Olivia had never introduced them. "He wants to meet my family," Olivia admitted. "And that's a problem because—" "You know why," Olivia said quietly. Pam frowned. "Because your parents are stuck in 1950. Olivia, you're an adult. If they can't accept who you love, that's their problem, not yours." "It's not that simple. They're still my family. And he could be your family too someday," Pam pointed out. "You have to decide what matters more, their comfort or your happiness." Olivia didn't have an answer for that. As she watched her students play, she thought about the lessons she taught them about kindness and acceptance. Was she living up to those lessons in her own life? That evening, she called Charlie and asked if they could meet for coffee the next day. Maybe her brother would help her find the courage she needed. Maybe it was time to bring her love out of the shadows and into the light. Olivia sat at the coffee shop waiting for Charlie. She checked her watch. He was 15 minutes late, which wasn't unusual for her brother. She sipped her latte and rehearsed what she would say to him about Marcus. The bell above the door jingled, and Charlie rushed in. At 23, he looked much like Olivia, with the same brown hair and blue eyes, but taller and with their father's strong jaw. He spotted her and waved, then ordered a coffee before joining her. "Sorry I'm late," he said, dropping into the chair across from her. "Slept through my alarm." Olivia noticed the dark circles under his eyes. "Late night?" Charlie shrugged. Just hanging out with some friends. He took a sip of his coffee. So what's up? You sounded serious on the phone. Olivia took a deep breath. I wanted to talk to you about something important. I've been seeing someone for a while now, and it's serious. Charlie's face lit up. That's great. Who is he? Do I know him? His name is Marcus Johnson. He's a public defender. We met at Kate's wedding last year. A lawyer, huh? Dad will love that, Charlie said with a grin. Olivia hesitated. There's something else. Marcus is black. Charlie's smile faded slightly. Not from disapproval, but understanding. Ah. And you're worried about Mom and Dad? Olivia nodded. You know how they are, especially Dad. Charlie was quiet for a moment. Yeah, I know. But you can't live your life based on what Dad might think. Is this Marcus guy good to you? He's amazing, Olivia said, unable to keep the smile from her face. He's smart and kind and passionate about helping people. You'd like him? Then that's what matters, Charlie said firmly. Look, Dad might be difficult at first, but he loves you. He'll come around eventually. Olivia wasn't so sure. I was thinking of bringing Marcus to Sunday dinner, but I'm scared. Charlie reached across the table and squeezed her hand. Want me to be there for backup? You're coming anyway, aren't you? Charlie looked away. I was going to skip it. I've got some stuff going on. What kind of stuff? Olivia asked, concerned. Is everything okay? It's fine, Charlie said quickly. Just some job stuff. Nothing important. Olivia didn't believe him, but she knew her brother well enough to know he wouldn't talk until he was ready. Well, I'd really appreciate it if you came on Sunday. I need the support. Charlie sighed but nodded. Okay for you, but don't spring Marcus on them without warning. Maybe tell them you're bringing someone special first. That's good advice, Olivia said. Thanks, Charlie. As they finished their coffee, Charlie kept checking his phone nervously. Olivia noticed but didn't comment. They parted with a hug, and as she watched him walk away, she couldn't shake the feeling that her brother was in some kind of trouble. That evening, Olivia called her mother to tell her she was bringing someone to dinner on Sunday. She didn't mention that it was Marcus or that he was black. She just said she had been seeing someone special and wanted the family to meet him. That's wonderful, dear, her mother said, sounding genuinely pleased. What's his name? What does he do? His name is Marcus. He's a lawyer, Olivia said, her heart racing. A public defender, actually. A lawyer. Your father will be impressed. We'll set an extra place at the table. After hanging up, Olivia called Marcus to tell him about Sunday. Are you sure you're ready for this? He asked gently. No, Olivia admitted. But I'm doing it anyway. You were right. I can't keep you a secret forever. I'm proud of you, Marcus said, and I'll be right there with you. Whatever happens, we'll face it together. The rest of the week passed quickly. Olivia was busy with school, preparing her students for upcoming tests. Marcus had a heavy caseload at work. They texted often, but only saw each other briefly for coffee on Wednesday. By Sunday morning, Olivia was a bundle of nerves. She changed her outfit 3 times before settling on a simple blue dress that Marcus once said brought out her eyes. She picked up Marcus at his apartment at 1:30. Sunday dinner at the Barrett house always began promptly at 2. You look beautiful, Marcus said when she arrived. He wore dark jeans and a crisp button-down shirt, casual but respectful. He held a bottle of wine and a small bouquet of flowers. For your mother, he explained. During the drive to her parents' house in the suburbs, Olivia gave Marcus a quick family briefing. My dad, Richard, runs his own insurance agency. He'll probably ask you a lot of questions about your work. My mom, Susan, is a retired nurse. She'll try to feed you until you burst, and you know about Charlie already. Marcus nodded, looking calm, but Olivia noticed him straightening his collar in the mirror. He was nervous too. They arrived at the modest 2-story home where Olivia had grown up. Ready? She asked, turning off the engine. Marcus leaned over and kissed her gently. Ready? Olivia's mother opened the door before they could knock. "Olivia, you're right on time, and this must be—" She stopped mid-sentence, her smile freezing as she saw Marcus. "Mom, this is Marcus Johnson," Olivia said, her voice stronger than she felt. "Marcus, this is my mother, Susan Barrett." There was an awkward pause before Susan recovered. "Hello, Marcus, please come in." Her voice was polite but noticeably cooler than it had been on the phone. Marcus offered the flowers. "Thank you for having me, Mrs. Barrett." Susan took the flowers, with a tight smile. "You can call me Susan. Richard, Olivia's here with her friend." Olivia winced at the word friend, but Marcus gave her hand a reassuring squeeze as they followed Susan into the living room. Richard Barrett stood up from his armchair, remote control in hand, the Sunday football game playing in the background. He was a tall man with graying hair and the same blue eyes as his children. His face registered surprise, then something harder to read as he looked at Marcus. "Dad, this is Marcus Johnson, my boyfriend," Olivia said, emphasizing the last word. "Marcus, my father, Richard Barrett." Richard hesitated before extending his hand. "Mr. Johnson, please call me Marcus," he replied, shaking Richard's hand firmly. "It's nice to meet you, sir. Olivia talks about her family all the time." Richard nodded stiffly. "Does she? Well, have a seat. The game's almost over." The atmosphere was tense as they sat down. Susan excused herself to put the flowers in water and check on dinner. Olivia looked around. "Where's Charlie? Isn't he here?" "Yet." "Your brother called to say he'd be late," Richard said, his eyes still on the TV. "Something about car trouble." Marcus tried to make conversation, commenting on the football game, but Richard only gave short answers. When Susan called them to the table, Olivia was relieved. The dining room was just as Olivia remembered from her childhood. The oak table, the china cabinet filled with her grandmother's dishes, family photos on the wall. They took their seats, leaving an empty chair for Charlie. "Everything looks delicious, Mrs. Barrett," Marcus said as Susan served the roast beef. "Thank you," she replied, her voice slightly warmer. Food was Susan's love language, and compliments about her cooking always softened her. They had just started eating when Charlie finally arrived, looking disheveled and out of breath. "Sorry I'm late," he said, sliding into his chair. He nodded at Marcus. "You must be the famous Marcus. I'm Charlie, the screw-up brother." "Charlie," Susan scolded. "Don't talk about yourself that way." Marcus smiled. "Olivia talks about you all the time. All good things." "Then she's lying," Charlie said with a laugh that didn't reach his eyes. He filled his plate and began eating, avoiding everyone's gaze. The conversation during dinner was stilted. Richard asked Marcus about his work, his tone suggesting he was conducting an interview rather than making conversation. Marcus answered, politely and intelligently, explaining his role as a public defender without apology or defensiveness. "So you defend criminals," Richard said, cutting his meat with more force than necessary. "I defend people who can't afford private attorneys," Marcus corrected gently. "Everyone deserves a fair trial regardless of their income." Richard grunted. "I suppose. But some of these neighborhoods are getting dangerous these days. Too many troublemakers moving in." Olivia tensed, recognizing her father's coded language. "Dad?" Marcus touched her knee under the table, a silent request to let him handle it. "I believe economic opportunity and education are the real issues, sir. Crime rates actually drop when communities have resources and support." Richard didn't respond directly, changing the subject to ask about Marcus's family. The rest of the meal continued in this vein, moments of tension followed by careful navigation to safer topics. Throughout dinner, Olivia noticed Charlie checking his phone repeatedly, looking increasingly anxious. When Susan brought out dessert, Charlie suddenly stood up. "I need to go. Sorry, Mom." "But you just got here," Susan protested. "And you've barely eaten." "I said I'm sorry," Charlie snapped, then immediately looked guilty. "I've got something important. I'll call you tomorrow." He hurried out before anyone could stop him. Olivia excused herself and followed him to the door. "Charlie, what's going on?" she asked quietly. "Nothing." "I just need to go," he said, not meeting her eyes. Olivia noticed his hands were shaking. "You know you can talk to me, right? About anything." Charlie finally looked at her, his expression troubled. "Not about this, just take care of yourself, Liv. And your boyfriend seems nice. Don't let Dad ruin it." Then he was gone, leaving Olivia staring after him with growing concern. Olivia and Marcus drove home from the Barrett family dinner in silence. The tension from the evening hung between them like a heavy cloud. Finally, Marcus spoke. "Your brother seemed troubled. Is he always like that?" Olivia shook her head. "No, something's wrong. He's been acting strange for weeks now. Do you want to talk about the rest of it?" Marcus asked gently. "The dinner?" Olivia sighed. "My parents were exactly how I expected. Dad with his comments, Mom with her fake smile. I'm sorry." "Don't apologize for them," Marcus said. "You were brave today, that's what matters." When they reached Marcus's apartment, Olivia decided not to go inside. She needed time alone to process everything. They kissed goodnight, and Marcus promised to call her tomorrow. Driving to her own apartment, Olivia couldn't shake her worry about Charlie. She tried calling him twice, but he didn't answer. She sent a text. "Please call me, I'm worried about you." At home, Olivia tried to grade papers, but she couldn't focus. Around 11:30, she gave up and went to bed, her mind still racing with thoughts of her brother and the disastrous family dinner. The shrill ring of her phone jolted Olivia awake. The clock on her nightstand read 2:17 a.m. Her heart raced as she grabbed the phone, seeing her mother's name on the screen. "Mom? What's wrong?" Her mother's voice was shaking. "It's Charlie. He's been arrested." Olivia sat up straight, fully awake, now. "Arrested for what?" "They're saying he was involved in a robbery," Susan said, her voice breaking. "A convenience store. He was driving the car for 2 other boys. There were guns, Olivia." "Guns?" Olivia felt like she couldn't breathe. Was anyone hurt? No, thank God, but Charlie. They're keeping him at the police station downtown. Your father is trying to find a lawyer. "I'll be right there," Olivia said, already getting out of bed. She threw on clothes and raced to her car. As she drove to her parents' house, her mind filled with images of Charlie in handcuffs in a jail cell, her sweet, funny brother. How had things gone so wrong? At her parents' house, Olivia found her mother sitting at the kitchen table, still in her nightgown, her eyes red from crying. Her father was on the phone in the living room, his voice raised in frustration. "What happened?" Olivia asked, sitting next to her mother. Susan wiped her eyes with a tissue. "The police called around midnight. They caught Charlie driving a car away from a robbery at that convenience store on Maple Street. 2 other young men went inside with guns and took money from the register. Charlie was waiting in the car. Richard came into the kitchen, his face grim. I found a lawyer, Greg Palmer. He can see us at 9 this morning." "What about Charlie? Can we see him?" Olivia asked. "They said we can visit him after he's processed," Richard said. "Probably in the morning." None of them slept that night. They sat in the kitchen drinking coffee, trying to make sense of what had happened. Richard was angry, pacing and muttering about the thugs Charlie had started hanging around with. Susan cried quietly. Olivia just felt numb. At 8:30, they drove to the office of Greg Palmer, attorney at law. Palmer was in his early 30s, with slicked back hair and an expensive suit. He spoke quickly and used a lot of legal terms that Olivia's parents didn't seem to understand. Olivia found herself wishing Marcus was there to translate. "Bottom line," Palmer said, leaning back. In his chair, "Charlie is in serious trouble. Armed robbery carries heavy penalties. The fact that he was only the driver helps, but he was still part of it." "He wouldn't do this," Susan insisted. "Not willingly." "Mrs. Barrett, they have him on camera," Palmer said. "And the other 2 suspects have already told police that Charlie knew exactly what was happening." "How much will this cost?" Richard asked. Palmer named a figure that made Olivia wince. Her parents weren't poor, but they weren't wealthy either. Richard owned a small insurance agency, and Susan's nursing pension only went so far. "That's just to start," Palmer added. "If this goes to trial, it will be much more." Richard wrote a check without hesitation. Just help our son. After meeting with Palmer, they went to the police station. Charlie was brought to a small room where they could talk to him through a glass partition. He looked terrible, pale with dark circles under his eyes, still wearing the same clothes from dinner. "I'm sorry," were the first words out of his mouth. "I never meant for this to happen." Susan pressed her hand against the glass. "Oh, Charlie, what were you thinking?" "I wasn't," he admitted. "I've been in debt, bad debt to bad people. They said they'd hurt me if I didn't help them. I thought they just wanted me to drive them somewhere. I didn't know about the guns until we were already there." "Why didn't you come to us?" Richard demanded. "We would have helped you." Charlie looked down. "I was ashamed. I didn't want you to know how badly I'd messed up." Olivia's heart broke for her brother. He looked so young and scared. "Mr. Palmer is going to help you," she told him. "We'll get through this together." Charlie nodded, but he didn't look convinced. "That guy seems like he's more interested in his fee than in helping me." Their time was up too soon. As they left the police station, Olivia couldn't shake Charlie's words about Palmer. The lawyer had seemed slick and rushed, not deeply invested in Charlie's case. That night, alone in her apartment, Olivia called Marcus. She had been avoiding telling him about Charlie, partly because she was embarrassed and partly because she wasn't sure how to ask for help. But now, hearing his warm voice on the phone, she broke down. "Charlie's been arrested," she said through tears, "for armed robbery." "What?" Marcus sounded shocked. "Tell me everything." Olivia explained the situation. The midnight call, the lawyer, their visit to Charlie. "He says he was forced into it, that he didn't know about the guns. But the lawyer doesn't seem to care. He's already talking about a plea deal." "A plea deal already?" Marcus sounded concerned. "That's very fast. Has he even reviewed the evidence yet?" "I don't know," Olivia admitted. "My parents are just following his lead. They don't know anything about the legal system." There was a pause on the line. Then Marcus said, "Olivia, I might be able to help. I work in that courthouse. I could look at the case, maybe give you some advice." Olivia hesitated. She wanted Marcus's help desperately, but it would mean fully bringing her two worlds together. Her parents would have to know not just that she was dating Marcus, but that they needed him. "Would you really do that?" she asked quietly. "Of course," Marcus said without hesitation. "Charlie is your brother. That makes him important to me too." The next day, Olivia called in sick to school. She met Marcus for coffee before he had to, be in court. He looked professional in his suit, a different side of him than she was used to seeing. "I checked the docket," he said. "Charlie's preliminary hearing is scheduled for next week. The charges are serious, Olivia. Accessory to armed robbery." "But he didn't know about the guns," Olivia protested. "That's his defense, but he'll need to prove it." "Did this Palmer guy mention anything about security footage, witness statements, phone records?" Olivia shook her head. "He just said they have Charlie on camera driving the car." Marcus frowned. "That's not enough. A good lawyer would be looking at everything. The footage before the robbery, Charlie's phone to see if he was threatened, interviewing the other suspects." "What should I do?" Olivia asked, feeling helpless. "Talk to your parents. Palmer might be in over his head, or he might just be looking for a quick fee. Either way, Charlie needs better representation." "Would you do it?" Olivia asked suddenly. "Would you represent Charlie?" Marcus looked surprised. "Olivia, that would mean your parents would need to know about us. They'd need to trust me completely." "I know," she said. "But Charlie's future is at stake. If you think you can help him, then I'll make my parents understand." Marcus took her hand. "Let me look into the case first. I'll review the file and see what I can find out. Then we can decide the best way forward." That afternoon, while Marcus was in court, Olivia went to her parents' house. They were sitting in the living room looking exhausted. They had aged years in just a day. "I talked to someone about Charlie's case," she said. "A lawyer I trust. He thinks we should be doing more, looking deeper into what happened." "We already have a lawyer," her father said dismissively. "But is he the right lawyer?" Olivia pressed. "Has he talked about investigating Charlie's story?" About looking at all the evidence? Her parents exchanged a look. What are you suggesting? Her mother asked. Olivia took a deep breath. My boyfriend, Marcus. He's not just any lawyer. He's a public defender who works in the same courthouse where Charlie's case will be heard. He knows the system, the judges, the prosecutors. He wants to help. Her father's face darkened. Your boyfriend? The one from dinner? You want us to trust Charlie's future to him? Yes, Olivia said firmly. Because he's good at his job and he cares about me, which means he cares about Charlie too. We don't even know him, her mother protested. Then get to know him, Olivia said. Meet with him, let him tell you what he thinks about the case. You don't have to decide anything right away. Her parents were silent for a long moment. Finally, her father nodded stiffly. Fine, we'll meet with him, but no promises. It was a small victory, but Olivia would take it. For Charlie's sake, she would bridge the gap between her two worlds, even if it meant facing her parents' prejudice head-on. The next evening, Marcus came to the Barrett home. He wore a professional dark suit and carried a leather briefcase. Olivia met him at the door, squeezing his hand for courage before leading him into the living room where her parents waited. Richard and Susan Barrett sat stiffly on the couch. They nodded at Marcus but didn't smile. Olivia could feel the tension in the air as Marcus took a seat in the armchair across from them. Thank you for seeing me, Marcus began, his voice calm and professional. I know this is a difficult time for your family. Let's get to the point, Richard said. Olivia says you think you can help Charlie. How? Marcus opened his briefcase and took out a notepad. First, I'd like to understand what Mr. Palmer has told you about Charlie's case and what steps he's taking. Susan explained that Palmer had visited Charlie once and was recommending a plea deal. He says if Charlie pleads guilty, they might reduce the charges because he was only the driver. Marcus frowned. Has he reviewed all the evidence? Interviewed witnesses? Checked security footage from before the robbery? I don't think so, Susan admitted. He just said the evidence against Charlie is strong. And what about Charlie's claim that he was forced into it? Is Palmer investigating that? Richard shook his head. He said it would be hard to prove. That it's just Charlie's word against the other two guys. Marcus leaned forward. Mr. and Mrs. Barrett, I've been a public defender for 7 years. I've handled dozens of cases like Charlie's. A good lawyer doesn't just accept what the prosecution says, they investigate every angle. And you think you're a good lawyer? Richard asked, his tone slightly challenging. I think I care enough to try harder than Palmer is trying, Marcus replied evenly. I've already looked into some aspects of the case. Did you know there's a security camera at the gas station across from the convenience store? It might have footage of what happened before the robbery. Olivia saw surprise on her parents' faces. Palmer didn't mention that, her father said. There's also the matter of Charlie's phone records, Marcus continued. If he received threatening messages, that would support his story. For the next hour, Marcus explained how he would approach Charlie's defense. He was clear and thorough, answering all of Richard's questions without getting defensive. Olivia watched her parents' expressions slowly change from skepticism to grudging interest. Why would you do this for Charlie? Susan finally asked. You barely know our family. Marcus looked at Olivia, then back at her parents. Because Olivia cares about Charlie, and I care about Olivia. It's that simple. Richard was quiet for a long moment. Then he sighed. Palmer wants another $5,000 to continue. We'd have to take out a loan. I'm not asking for money, Marcus said. I'd represent Charlie pro bono, for free. Why? Richard asked bluntly. Because it's the right thing to do, Marcus replied. And because I believe Charlie deserves a fair chance. After Marcus left, Olivia stayed to talk with her parents. Her father paced the living room. I don't like it, he said. Depending on someone we barely know. Dad, Marcus is good at his job, Olivia insisted, and he's willing to help us for free. Nothing is ever free, Richard grumbled. Richard, Susan said quietly, that Palmer man hasn't done anything helpful, and we can't afford to pay him more. Richard stopped pacing and looked at his wife. You think we should let Olivia's friend take the case? I think we should do whatever gives Charlie the best chance, Susan said. The next morning, Olivia called Marcus with the news. Her parents had agreed to let him represent Charlie. They would tell Palmer they no longer needed his services. Thankfully, you, Olivia said. I know this isn't easy. It's my job, Marcus replied. And more than that, it's important to you. But Olivia, I need to be honest about something. What is it? If I represent Charlie, it will be public. Everyone will know we're together. Are you ready for that? Olivia thought about how long she had hidden their relationship, how afraid she had been of what people might think. Now, with Charlie's future at stake, those fears seemed small. Yes, she said firmly. I'm ready. Marcus wasted no time. That afternoon, he visited Charlie in jail. Charlie was surprised to see him, but quickly warmed up when Marcus explained that he was taking over the case. Your sister believes in you, Marcus told him. And I believe in second chances. Charlie's eyes filled with tears. I messed up. I've been gambling online. I got into debt with some dangerous people. They said they'd hurt me if I didn't help them, but I swear I didn't know they had guns. Tell me everything, Marcus said. Every detail you can remember. Charlie described how two guys he knew from online gambling had contacted him, demanding he drive them somewhere to collect a debt. He had been scared and felt he had no choice. He only realized it was a robbery when they pulled masks and guns from their backpacks just before entering the store. I wanted to drive away, but I was afraid they'd hurt the people inside if I did, Charlie explained. So I waited, and when they ran out, I drove. The police caught us a few blocks away. Marcus took detailed notes. We need to prove you were coerced. Did they threaten you over text or email? Charlie nodded. Yes, but I deleted the messages because I was scared. We can get those records from your phone company, Marcus assured him. What about the gas station across the street? Did you stop there first? Yes, we got gas. I went inside to pay while they stayed in the car. Marcus smiled. That might help us. If they were discussing the robbery, they wouldn't have done it in front of you. Over the next few days, Marcus worked tirelessly on Charlie's case. He obtained the security footage from the gas station, which showed Charlie appearing normal while paying for gas, then looking shocked when he returned to the car, as if he had just learned something disturbing. He also got Charlie's phone records, which showed threatening texts from the other two men. Most importantly, Marcus found witnesses at the convenience store who said Charlie had stayed in the car during the robbery and had looked frightened, not like a willing participant. Palmer had missed all of this evidence. When Marcus presented it to the prosecutor, she agreed to reconsider the charges against Charlie. A week later, Marcus met with Olivia and her parents to update them. They sat around the Barrett dining table, the same place where the uncomfortable family dinner had taken place. The prosecutor has offered a deal, Marcus explained. Based on the new evidence, she's willing to reduce the charges to aiding after the fact. With Charlie's clean record, that would mean probation instead of jail time. Susan gasped with relief. No jail? No jail, Marcus confirmed. Charlie would need to do community service and attend counseling, but he wouldn't serve time. Richard, who had been quiet until now, looked directly at Marcus. You did all this in a week. Palmer had the case for days and found nothing. I had motivation that Palmer didn't have, Marcus said, glancing at Olivia. Richard cleared his throat. I owe you an apology, Mr. Johnson. I judged you unfairly. Marcus, please, he said. And no apology is necessary. Actions speak louder than words, and you trusted me with something incredibly important. Your son's future. When will Charlie come home? Susan asked, wiping tears from her eyes. After the hearing tomorrow, if the judge accepts the deal, Marcus explained. I'll be there representing him, and you should all be there too. Your support will matter to the judge. As they left the Barrett house that evening, Olivia held Marcus's hand tightly. You've changed everything, she said. Not just for Charlie, but for my family. I just did my job, Marcus said modestly. No, Olivia insisted. You did more than that. You showed them who you really are. You made them see past their prejudice. Marcus smiled. Change takes time. This is just the beginning. But it is a beginning, Olivia said. A week ago I was hiding you from my family. Now my father actually shook your hand and looked you in the eye. The next day they all gathered at the courthouse for Charlie's hearing. Olivia sat between her parents in the gallery. Marcus stood confidently at the defense table beside Charlie, who wore a borrowed suit that was slightly too big for him. The prosecutor presented the reduced charges and the plea agreement. She acknowledged the new evidence Marcus had discovered, which showed Charlie had been under duress and unaware of the planned robbery until the last moment. When it was Marcus's turn to speak, he was eloquent and passionate. He talked about Charlie's clean record, his recent college graduation, and the circumstances that had led to his poor choices. He emphasized Charlie's remorse and his willingness to make amends. Your Honor, Marcus concluded, Charlie Barrett made a mistake, but it was not a mistake born of malice or greed. It was born of fear. He has strong family support and the potential for a bright future. We ask the court to accept this plea agreement and give him the chance to rebuild his life. The judge considered for a moment, then nodded. The court accepts the plea agreement. Mr. Barrett, you will serve 2 years of probation, complete 200 hours of community service, and attend both gambling addiction counseling and regular meetings with your probation officer. Relief washed over Charlie's face. He thanked the judge sincerely. Outside the courtroom, Charlie hugged Marcus tightly. Thank you. I don't know how to repay you. Live a good life, Marcus said simply. That's all the payment I need. Richard approached Marcus and extended his hand. This time his handshake was firm and 3 months had passed since Charlie's court hearing. The Barrett family gathered in the backyard for a Saturday barbecue. Richard stood at the grill, flipping burgers and hot dogs. Susan moved between the kitchen and the patio table, bringing out bowls of salad and potato chips. Charlie, looking healthier than he had in months, helped his mother set the table. Olivia arrived with Marcus, carrying a homemade apple pie. It was the third family gathering Marcus had attended since helping Charlie. Each time, the atmosphere had grown more relaxed, more natural. We brought dessert, Olivia announced, holding up the pie. Apple pie. My favorite, Charlie said, giving his sister a hug. Susan took the pie with a genuine smile. Thank you, Marcus, that was thoughtful. I can't take credit, Marcus admitted. Olivia did all the work. I just watched and tasted the filling. Richard looked up from the grill. Marcus, come give me your expert opinion on these burgers, as Marcus joined Richard at the grill. Olivia watched them with amazement. Her father was actually making an effort to include Marcus, to treat him like a welcome guest rather than an intruder. It wasn't perfect yet. There were still awkward moments and careful conversations, but it was progress. Your brother is doing well, Susan said quietly, standing beside Olivia. Charlie was now working part-time at a local bookstore while taking online classes in graphic design. He attended counseling twice a week for his gambling addiction and had completed nearly half of his community service hours working at a food bank. Thanks to Marcus, Olivia replied. Susan nodded slowly. Yes, we owe him a great deal. She hesitated, then added, Your father and I, we were wrong about him. I'm sorry for how we reacted when you first brought him home. Olivia hugged her mother. Thank you for saying that. The barbecue was relaxed and pleasant. After they ate, Charlie challenged Marcus to a game of basketball on the old hoop in the driveway. Richard surprised everyone by joining them. The 3 men played and laughed, while Olivia and Susan watched from the porch. He makes you happy, doesn't he? Susan asked, watching Olivia's face as she looked at Marcus. Very happy, Olivia confirmed. And it's serious between you two? Olivia nodded. Yes, we've talked about the future. Susan was quiet for a moment. I want you to be happy, Olivia. That's all I've ever wanted for you and Charlie. Later, as the sun began to set, they all sat around the patio table eating apple pie. Charlie was telling a story about a customer at the bookstore when his phone buzzed. He checked it, then stood up. I need to go. My community service supervisor needs help with an emergency food delivery tomorrow morning. They're short-handed. On a Sunday? Richard asked. Hunger doesn't take weekends off, Dad, Charlie said with a small smile. Besides, I don't mind. The people at the food bank are nice. After Charlie left, Richard turned to Marcus. I never properly thanked you for what you did for my son. Marcus looked uncomfortable with the praise. I just helped him get a fair chance. Charlie's doing the hard work now. Still, our family owes you a debt, Richard insisted. You saw something in Charlie that Palmer didn't bother to look for. You believed him when even I had doubts. I believe everyone deserves to have someone on their side, Marcus said. That's why I became a public defender. Richard nodded thoughtfully. It's good work. Important work. As they helped clean up after dinner, Marcus mentioned to Olivia that he needed to leave soon to prepare for a big case on Monday. Richard overheard and asked about it. It's a young woman charged with drug possession, Marcus explained. But there are some serious questions about how the evidence was obtained. I think the police may have conducted an illegal search. To Olivia's surprise, her father seemed genuinely interested. He asked several questions about search and seizure laws. Before long, he and Marcus were deep in conversation about the legal system and its flaws. I never realized how the system could work against someone who can't afford a good lawyer, Richard admitted. That's why public defenders are so important, Marcus said. Everyone has rights, not just people with money. When it was time to leave, Susan hugged both Olivia and Marcus. Richard shook Marcus's hand firmly. You're welcome here any time, said. No need to wait for a special occasion. In the car, Olivia couldn't stop smiling. Did that really happen? Did my father just invite you over any time? Marcus laughed. I think he did. Your father's coming around, Olivia. They both are. All because of what you did for Charlie. People can change when they have a reason to, Marcus said. Your parents loved Charlie. Helping him gave them a reason to see past their prejudice. A week later, Olivia was grading papers in her classroom after school when there was a knock at her door. She looked up to see Charlie. Hey sis, he said, coming in and sitting at one of the small student desks. Got a minute? For you? Always, she said, putting down her red pen. How are you doing? Good, actually, Charlie said. Really good. That's kind of why I'm here. He told her that the director of the food bank had offered him a part-time paid position coordinating volunteers, in addition to his bookstore job. He was also doing well in his graphic design classes and had started designing flyers and social media posts for the food bank. I'm proud of you, Olivia said sincerely. I wouldn't be here without Marcus, Charlie said. He saved me from prison, Liv. But more than that, he believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. Olivia smiled. He's good at seeing the best in people. He's good for you too, Charlie added. I've never seen you this happy. I am happy, Olivia admitted. Even with everything that happened, I'm happier than I've ever been. Charlie hesitated, then asked, Have you two talked about getting married? Olivia blushed. We've discussed it. Not right away, but someday. Mom and Dad will come around completely by then, Charlie said confidently. Dad actually mentioned Marcus at dinner last night. Something about a case Marcus told him about. He sounded impressed. Olivia was surprised. Really? Really. Marcus changed something in Dad, Liv. Made him question some of his old ideas. The following weekend, Marcus invited Olivia to a special dinner at his favorite restaurant. When she arrived, she found not only Marcus waiting, but also his parents, James and Patricia Johnson. Olivia had met them twice before and liked them immediately. We wanted to celebrate with you, Patricia explained, hugging Olivia warmly. Celebrate what? Olivia asked, confused. Marcus grinned. I got the promotion. I'm now the lead attorney in the juvenile division. That's wonderful, Olivia exclaimed, hugging him. You've worked so hard for this. Over dinner, James told stories about Marcus as a child, always standing up for the underdog, always fighting for what he thought was right. Patricia showed Olivia pictures of young Marcus in his first suit, heading to a high school debate competition. We're so proud of him, Patricia said, squeezing her son's hand. Not just for his success, but for the man he's become. I am too, Olivia said softly. After dinner, Marcus suggested they take a walk in the nearby park. The night was warm, the sky clear and filled with stars. They found a quiet bench near a small pond. I have something to ask you, Marcus said, suddenly looking nervous. Olivia's heart raced as he took a small box from his pocket. He didn't get down on one knee, that wasn't Marcus's style, but he held her hands gently as he opened the box to reveal a simple but beautiful diamond ring. Olivia Barrett, will you marry me? Tears filled Olivia's eyes. Yes, she whispered. Yes, I will. As they drove to her parents' house to share the news, Olivia thought about how much had changed in less than a year. She had gone from hiding her relationship with Marcus to proudly showing him off to her family and friends. Her father, who had once barely looked Marcus in the eye, now discussed cases with him and asked his opinion on legal matters in the news. Charlie greeted them at the door, immediately noticing Olivia's ring. Finally, he exclaimed, hugging them, both. I was wondering when you'd get around to it. Richard and Susan came into the hallway to see what the commotion was about. Olivia held up her hand, showing them the ring. Marcus asked me to marry him, she said, and I said yes. Susan's eyes filled with tears as she hugged her daughter, then Marcus. Richard stood still for a moment, then stepped forward and extended his hand to Marcus. Welcome to the family, he said. Then, surprising everyone, he pulled Marcus into a brief but genuine hug. Later, as they all sat in the living room discussing wedding plans, Olivia caught Marcus's eye across the room and smiled. Their journey hadn't been easy. They had faced prejudice, secrets, and a family crisis. But through it all, their love had not only survived, it had helped heal old wounds and create new bonds. Love, Olivia realized, was not just about finding someone who made you happy. It was about finding someone who made you brave enough to stand up for that happiness, even when it was difficult. Marcus had been that person for her, and she would forever be grateful that she had found the courage to bring him from the shadows into the light of her whole life.